Welcome to Sharon's Coach LLC. Let's talk, but if it doesn't apply, let it fly YouTube channel. Sharon is courageous, optimistic, authentic, compassionate, and humble. She is me. I am Sharon, coming to you live from Richmond, Virginia. I just want to give a couple of quick shots out before I get started. One to Mr. A.J. Gant. I'm not sure if you can hear his music playing in the background. Just know I do not own the rights to it. But special shout out to him for using music as a form of therapy and recovery. He has a program that is catered to relieving stress. He's playing an acoustic guitar, and the sounds are absolutely amazing. Myself included, I know for a fact that he has helped a lot of people weather some major storms in his life through his music. It's absolutely amazing. You can visit him at AJ Gant, and that's GHENT.com. I'm sure if you like music on any level, you'll love what he does. So that's a special shout out to Mr. AJ Gant. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. We are listening, and what you're doing is working. Amen, amen, amen. Now, today is hump day. It's the middle of the week. For me, in the past, it was my worst day of the week because instead of focusing on all the goodness that I had experienced leading up to that day, I was focusing on all of the unknown that would follow it. But now it's an opportunity for me to take a pause, take a step back, regroup, see what we've accomplished versus what we want to achieve, and create a plan and move forward. Hump day is a beautiful day. If you made it to Wednesday, then you did a good thing. Amen, amen, amen. Now, I want to cover a couple of different things. One, I've had quite a few people reach out to me and check on me, and again, I thank you for that. It's greatly appreciated. It does my heart good to know that my experiences are relatable and they can be used to help others through their own storms. I in no way want to attack or assassinate anyone's character. However, when it comes to the benefit of the greater good, some skeletons need to be let out the closet, okay? Myself included. I never claim to be perfect, nor will I ever. It's part of my life's journey to have experienced a lot of things that I'm speaking to. And truth be told, I think some of the experiences I've been fortunate enough to have is born out of God's wanting to use me, and in doing so he had to educate me. I was having a very frank conversation on yesterday, and a couple of things came to reality for me, and it was amazing because I had a major breakthrough. I know if you guys have been watching me, you know I've battled with depression. I do have a PTSD diagnosis from suffering several major traumas throughout my life. And before we get into advocacy and the role that I plan to play in regards to making sure people in our communities, which I'm going to say is the underserved community, has the tools, resources, and support that they need, I like to share my own personal experiences. And just through general conversation, one of the things that I realized, and I've also spoken to this before, how my journey has been orchestrated in a way that things that my sheltered self truly had no idea about. I've seen it but had never experienced it, so therefore I questioned it, okay? For example, I used to question how could a person struggling with addiction not find the love of their family, the needs of their children, to outweigh the need to participate in their drug usage. So those are things, just to name one off the top of my head, that I had to have experienced. The same as with domestic violence. I am a domestic violence and family abuse survivor. I know all too well what that entails, what that looks like, whether it's something minor or something truly egregious. I used to question people's choices to stay in those situations and not take active steps to remove themselves. But as a domestic violence and family abuse survivor, I now understand why that is. Now, having been in that situation, and I thank God every day that the way I was built and the way I was born, it would not allow me to let that be a long-term ongoing situation. However, unfortunately for me, when I made the decision to walk away from it and I sought out assistance and tried to utilize resources that should have been available to me, it unfortunately did not go in my favor. And instead of my situation getting better, it actually has gotten worse. Okay. Now, again, the good news in that is because I am an advocate for domestic violence victims, an advocate for employees experiencing discrimination, harassment, and retaliation on their job. These are things that I needed to have lived through firsthand in order to be able to talk you through or walk you through your own personal situation. Now, hear me when I say nobody's situation is going to be the same. Everybody's story is going to be different. The chapters are going to vary because no two people live the same exact life. However, if we're focusing on the baseline and minimum basic standards, all of those should be the same. And that's where I come in at. I come in to focus on those things that are basic liberties, basic civil rights, basic human rights, things that should be done for us out of common courtesy and basic decency. And that's what I want to shed light on today. I know I sent a shout out to Mr. A.J. again for his music therapy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate that, and I pray through my videos you garner more viewers and followers, because people, if you're struggling with anything, there's so many different coping mechanisms that are available that we know nothing about. And for the most part, the majority of the people that I know, they love music. So if you have a love for music, then music therapy can be used as a tool or coping mechanism to help you through those difficult moments. Okay, now what my topic about today is going to be about advocacy, how to advocate for yourself, why it's important, and when it's important. Secondary shout out is going out to Mrs. Nina Turner of Unbossed. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to visit my page, but on yesterday evening, I came across a video that she did in regards to addressing the government's failure to protect us renters. Again, I'm speaking to what I know personally, what I've experienced personally. So as they reminded me the entire process, I'm not the only one that it's happening to. And if you take a moment to go to my page, you'll hear the story, and you'll also be familiar with the numbers. I think it was a 0.8% increase in the cost to rent an apartment, and that has affected homelessness very severely. If you hadn't had an opportunity to go back to the very beginning, C.O.A.C.H LLC was born out of a very unfortunate situation where, again, I found myself as a domestic violence victim seeking help and assistance to rid myself of that situation. And one of the first things I did was sadly, I asked my current landlord to relocate me within the community because I wasn't in a position to financially relocate myself at that time, which should have been made available to me. That option should have been made available to me, but it wasn't. So the next thing I did was, because I was still employed, just on medical leave, I did apply for and got approved for an apartment clear across town. Again, the goal was to remove myself from that situation. And sadly, because of the fact that I utilized the resources that were made available to me, mainly the rent relief program that was born out of the COVID pandemic, I was denied the right. I was denied the right to rent a new apartment. I was denied the right to be transferred because of that reason. And the only reason why I needed to utilize those benefits is, again, I had been on an extended medical leave from my job, which reduced my income. So I didn't have the means to financially relocate myself. Now, the issue that we were running into, again, I encourage you to go and look at Unbossed by Nina Turner and her piece on the government's role or lack of action when it comes to regulating corporate housing companies. Okay, if you're not familiar, what it is these corporations or these individuals that are heading up these corporations, they buy up large pieces of property, residential property, and then they attach rent to it. So the problem we are running into is a couple of different things. One, they are steadily increasing the rent every month. Two, what I've seen personally myself, they're not maintaining the property. So that leads us to question, where is my money going every month? I know a lot of people think that as a renter, in some ways, you should be okay with a lower level of service, but it's not okay. You're actually paying someone to live in their property, and as a property owner, the maintenance and maintaining of that property is their responsibility, which we are paying them for. Okay, so what's happening is they're steadily increasing the rate, which increases their bottom line, but as the tenant or the renter, you're not reaping the benefits of that. Part of what I went through as a result of their discrimination, because what's happening is, and the government is tied into this, I don't care what anybody says, the proof is in the pudding. Myself personally, applying for the rent relief program, the program itself was put in place to protect us renters, for the fact that they didn't want us working and things like that, and there were some other underlying qualifications that may have gotten you approved for the program. However, it's a government funded program that they forced us to take advantage of in so many ways, because if you're telling us we can't go to work, we can't go to work, and we can't generate any income, so we can't pay our rent. So it was supposed to be a protection in place for those that qualified for the program, where there could be no legal action taken against them in regards to eviction. That was one. A lot of people didn't know that, but that was a government stipulation put in place. However, a lot of property owners then in turn went to the courts, which is what government, and filed for writs of evictions for these people that had balances, trying to force them to vacate those properties, myself included. Now, the issue with that is, and this is where we're going to talk about advocating for ourselves, and this means no matter what capacity it's in. It could be on your job professionally, it could be medically. A lot of times, you go to the doctor, you have these complaints, or you're looking for treatment, and it feels like your concerns are falling on deaf ears. That's an opportunity to advocate for yourself. Legally, whether it be the police or dealing with the judicial courts and things like that, if you feel like your rights are being infringed upon, if you feel like they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and I don't care how slight or small it may seem, it's very important that you advocate for yourself. You're making these concerns known as you go. Why is that, you're asking me? Simply because while if it's a slight situation, or a minor grievance, then no, there may not be any major action being taken. However, that grievance then becomes a part of a record. It establishes a pattern of behavior. So that's why we need to advocate for ourselves. If you're dealing with a legal matter, you guys know that I'm trying to get Lauren Cordell de-seated as the chief judge at Henrico County Judicial Court building, simply because she had a duty. She has a duty, a legal duty as a lawyer, as an officer of the court, and a representative for children. She had a legal duty to abide by certain rules and guidelines and perform her job in a certain way, that she failed to do it. So this is the thing. I'm just one person, and her failure to do her job, or meet her expectations in regards to, they refer to it as the canon of ethics, which is simply a minimum standard of what a lawyer should be doing. And she violated that, and that violation in turn destroyed the lives of myself and my children. And even to this day, nearly 10 years later, we're still dealing with the ramifications of her failure to do her job and complete her duties as required by the state of Virginia as an attorney, as required by the judicial system, and as required by the canons of ethics. So this is the thing for me. I am a by the book type of person. Okay, I've actually had people say, you take everything so literally. Well, if it's a rule and it's a regulation, it's written for a reason. It is meant to be taken literally. So if you're on your job and you hear a discriminatory comment, or you hear someone creating or observe someone trying to create a hostile environment, they have protocol, they have rules, they have regulations, they have these departments in place that are supposed to, upon being made aware of that there is a situation in violation of those rules and protocols, that action should be taken, right? However, if we overlook it, if we accept it, if we minimize it, and we're not reporting it, then when something egregious like what happened to me, I show up with my face, my eye battered and bruised and things like that, and nothing is done. And then once I file agreements, it's like, okay, so this is just the first time. No, it's not the first time. It may have been the first known time or the first time I personally reported this, but it's not the first time. So that pattern of behavior then becomes something someone looks into, like, okay, so Sharon just had filed this grievance, Sharon just filed this complaint. What else is out there? Is this truly how they operate? And the answer to that question, 9 times out of 10, I'm a firm believer: if you did it once, you'll do it again. If you did it to me, you've done it to somebody else, and if we don't address it, you're going to do it to someone else again, right? So these are all the reasons why, no matter how small or petty or slight you may feel someone's your grievance is, or your complaint against someone is, you need to report it. You need to see something, say something. That's the only way we're going to stop the injustices that our communities suffer day in and day out. As of late, this apartment again that I live in, they continuously raise the rent. Now, two things. I had no issue with increasing the rent because it's a cost of living thing. We all know in this particular market right now, or the way our economy is set up, everything has everything has an increase in price, which is what it is. So I have no problem with that. But you can't continuously increase my price or my cost of living, but then you're not matching that increase with maintenance and maintenance and keeping my property maintained. What? Not even my property. You can't charge me to live here, charge me for an increase in rate, but then you're not using those funds that you're charging me for to maintain the property. As of right now, as I'm speaking, I don't know if you guys remember or not, but probably about, I think, July, my AC unit went out and the temperatures got up into the mid 90s, and I had to suffer through that for well over a week. In turn, they finally relented, came out, replaced the unit. That's a whole nother conversation. But there was finishing work that needed to be done, and which required painting and sanding of my wall. That was July, August, September, October, November, December, January. 6 months later, my wall still has not been repaired. Okay. Now, as a renter, I believe, not even as a renter, I believe you are entitled to live in an environment that is befitting of you. If it was your home, and this is for the corporate people, the big wigs, the owners of these properties, if it was your home, would you want to stay in with the work, or would you pay for work that was unfinished? Can we talk about how you charge us monthly for certain supposed to be ancillary items within our rent? For example, trash removal. The trash hadn't been removed in over a month. So where is that money going? You talk about what is it, rodents or extermination fees and things like that. I've been here for over a year now, and I may have had one guy come out to exterminate my building or spray for bugs and things like that. But there is an ongoing charge on a monthly basis for this service, yet it has not been rendered. So who do we talk about that? How do you fix these things? You let the issue be known, and you let it be known on a wide scale. They can't fix what they don't know is wrong. And when I say they, you have these watchdog organizations, but nobody is utilizing them. When I say they, you allow the corporate owners of these companies and these establishments get away with doing this because they have deniability. If you haven't reported it, they can deny it because they didn't know anything was wrong. So that's where we talk about making sure you're keeping your records, making sure you're submitting your complaints in writing and keeping a copy of it. Make sure you document. Make sure you follow up. We have to get to a place where we advocate for ourselves first before we look to someone else to advocate for us. We have to advocate for ourselves first before we look to someone else to advocate for us. And again, I am a by the book person. So if I have an issue or problem or something doesn't set well with me, I'm doing my due diligence. I'm going to start researching. I'm going to start to figure out what's your stance on this as a company or an organization. And if this is something that you claim you have a zero tolerance for, then when I bring it to your attention, yes, I do expect immediate action and correction. I do expect you to address it. I do expect you to make it right, as is our right to do so. Okay. For our government officials out here, guys, we have a select few of people that represents our interest. Okay, we have a select few people that represents our interests, or supposed to represent our interests, and we're talking about a congressman, our senators, even down to the judicial system, the courts, and things like that. They are not absolved of their action and inaction when they're not acting in the best interest of their constituents. Okay, just like any other job you work, if you don't do the job to meet the expectation, then you do what? You're terminated, you're fired, right? You're demoted. All of these things can happen when you're not doing your job right. So write letters to your senators, write letters to your congressmen. Make sure you're utilizing the judicial system's grievance policy. If you have an issue with the judge that's overseeing your case and you feel like that there's some conflict of interest there, make sure you follow up. Make sure you file a show cause. Make sure you submit a written motion to the court to have them address this. I did that, and sadly to say, they didn't take action. But what has now happened is me being in the blind to whoever else may have had a problem with these people. My paper trail is there. My paper trail is there. And I know sometimes they will say, if you file too many show causes, they'll deem that to be frivolous complaints. Not if you can back it up. Not if you can back it up. If we have a court order in place that says you're supposed to be doing A, B, C, D, X, Y, and Z, then that's what you're supposed to be doing. And according to the law and that court order, if you fail to do A, B, C, and D, and X, Y, and Z, that's a violation of the court order. And it is then on you to show cause as of to why the judge should then enforce the order and then take action to address it or correct it, and to deter future action such as that. Now, it's not always going to happen that way, but again, that's why you're filing these grievances, because then we can show a pattern of behavior where the people that are representing us are failing to do their job. They're failing to do their due diligence. That's why I say Lauren Cordell has to go. Again, I know it's not just me, and I don't know how many other people that she has affected in that way, or that judicial system and that court building has, but I can tell you right now, just me alone dealing with them, because my divorce and my custody battle went through Henrico courts, okay? And we all know that did not turn out very well. And if you don't already know, they took custody of my children from me. They did. And when I say they did, it broke me down in a way, because there's no way, and I mean no way, that anyone that truly knows me, and had they done their due diligence and completed a thorough and full investigation, it would have also been verified that there's no way they could justify my children not being with me as their full-time parent. There's no way they could. It was done out of spite. It was done due to a conflict of interest. Again, their Garnett Lydium, who was their legal representative appointed by the court, was the partner of their father's lawyer, which is clearly a conflict of interest. It's clearly a conflict of interest, and that should have never been. And when I brought that issue up to the court, he told me based on their 20-plus year relationship, he was inclined to believe her, and that he didn't feel that there was any impropriety there. Yet, there still has not been anyone to explain to me how they were able to justify forcing my children to leave me. On the day they transferred custody, my son had the worst meltdown, where he took all of his belongings out of his room at my home and threw them out in the backyard and just outright refused to go. And as a result of that, knowing how volatile their father was, because he had made statements out in the opening, like if I was on fire in front of him, he wouldn't even piss on me, spit on me, let alone try to help me. Who would place a child in the full-time care of a parent that has that attitude and that mentality? That's clearly going against what the standards of the judicial outline says. When you look at what they go by, the guidelines for determining custody and placement and things like that, it is standard practice to place the child with the parent who's going to be most advantageous in encouraging a positive and healthy relationship with the other parent. And if he could stand in front of a judge and say what he said in regards to not preserving my life, what makes you think he would be capable of raising two children and encouraging a positive and healthy relationship? Now, as the result of that, you now have two children who are estranged from their mother for reasons untold right now. I did speak to it a little bit in regards to, the volatileness that they were exposed to with their father, and they then started mimicking their father's attitude and behaviors when it came to me. Naturally, hurt people, and I explained that to my children. I don't entertain, and I didn't entertain a lot of that, which is why now I have literally very little contact with my children, because narcissistic behavior, yes, narcissistic behavior is one in which they need to have control over the situation. So by me removing myself and limiting his access to me, he had no other choice but to go through my children. And this was all known. My son tried to fight me in public, and there were several witnesses to attest to this in regards to what he was dealing with emotionally and mentally. Some would say, well, if he's fighting you, you don't want to have... No. He was fighting me based on what is being poured into him. Okay. Same thing with my daughter. She hit 10 and she started getting bucked. She's bigger than me. Both of my kids are bigger than me. And they felt like they didn't have to take my direction. They didn't have to follow the rules in my house, because they're then being told by their father and other outside parties that I don't deserve that respect. Things like that. So that's why it's important to advocate for yourself. Don't ever let someone make you feel so helpless and so hopeless that they back you into a corner where you lose your fight mode or your fight mentality, especially when it comes to your kids. Now, some would say I gave up the fight, but again, I recognize the situation for what it was. They got to an age where I knew they were old enough to understand the consequences of their actions. So they were given a choice. It's very simple. You respect us both. You honor us both. You do as you told in both households, barring that it's something negative or illegal. You do what you're told. That's how my children are raised. And in the absence of that, then I don't have to deal with that, and you're not going to force me into it. So at first they said I was over mothering them, because I asked questions like, where are you going, who are you going to be with? I expect you to call me if you're not coming home. I expect you to call me and check in and let me know what's going on with you. Those are true parental... That's being a parent. That's what a mother is supposed to do. That's what a father is supposed to do. Now, the flip side of that, I was wrong for expecting those things. I was wrong for trying to communicate with their dad, to eliminate any opportunities for he said, she said, because there's a lot of that going on. It's a lot of lies being told and things like that surrounding this entire situation. I would only communicate in writing. So then that became a problem. But why? Because if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, why aren't you willing to communicate with me in writing? Those are the little things that we come up against. But again, advocating for myself, I kept the entire file and record of it. It was being told that, for example, I would refuse to sign the divorce decree separation order, but I have 3 copies that was submitted to him originally and then resubmitted again. And it wasn't until it came out in court where I was able to present all 3 copies, and all 3 were signed by me, but not by him. So that's one of those things that we're advocating for yourself and keeping that paper record proved to be beneficial. Okay. Now, what does advocating for yourself look like? Again, I just spoke to that. If you feel like somebody has committed a grievance against you, done you wrong, said something that they shouldn't have said, or if you've witnessed some behavior that you know is inappropriate, unprofessional, or whatever the situation and circumstances are, you know what is wrong. You know what is wrong. There's no question in my mind that as beings, we don't know when something is wrong. See something, say something. It's just that simple. See something, say something, send an email. Hey, look, I heard that statement you made. That didn't make me feel very comfortable, or I'm noticing these particular trends. For example, with me on the job, I noticed that one particular manager who made a statement saying that she favored white meat would only surround herself with younger white employees. And she would do that over more experienced black employees. Why is that, do you think? Because we didn't fit into that mold, because she couldn't bend and mold us to her liking, because someone that is inexperienced in the workplace, they're going to be more formidable to doing certain things. And me myself, I am that type of person where if it's wrong, it's wrong, and I don't want to be no party to it. And you're not going to force me to be a party to it. You can call me unapproachable, you can call me whatever you want to call me, but if you're wrong and what you're trying to get me to do is wrong, I'm not going to do it. I'm a adult in full transparency. I truly do operate from a place of within. My conscience is what moves me. So if I don't want it done to me, I'm not going to do it to someone else. So if I see or overhear someone having a whole entire conversation, tearing down another teammate or employee, I'm not going to participate in that. And I'm going to let you know that I'm not going to participate in that. And then I'm going to make sure I minimize or limit the opportunities you have to do that to me. So that's what advocating for yourself is. See something, say something. You know it ain't right, don't participate in it. I can remember as a child, and this was some years ago, when they were enforcing a curfew, and it was predominantly being enforced in black neighborhoods. And me and a group of friends were out. There was an adult, someone over 18, so we were within. I think the law was you had to be within so many feet of your home if you were under 18 at a certain time. If you were caught outside, then you had to answer for that, which was fine. They were trying to get crime under control. However, the treatment that I witnessed that night, with the police being overly aggressive, being intimidating, I was born to advocate. I actually got handcuffed because I was advocating. Because I found my voice at an early age, in some cases, I'm not going to say all cases, because I am a victim of family abuse, sexual abuse, which did go some time without being reported. But once I found my voice in certain situations, I use it. And they couldn't appreciate that. They didn't appreciate that. So then they tried to intimidate me. The same thing with this domestic violence case, when there was a violation of the restraining order in place. And at the advisement of my therapist, I reported the issue to the victim witness in Henrico County, and in turn she had the police come out and contact me. Well, instead of coming out and contacting me, taking a statement, and they doing whatever they do on the back end of it, she came out to intimidate me, knowing that I was already suffering from PTSD, knowing that it had already moved me into close proximity of his family, who initially came out and said that I was lying. He wasn't capable of doing this to me and things like that. They then began to tell me, well, they're going to have to contact them. They're pretty much going to have to reopen that wound and involve his family and friends. And they have me in eyesight of these people. So naturally, I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. That you're not offering me any protection. But this was the thing. This was months after it. And she stood there and she told me that they had not yet served him with the restraining order. You moved me here, but you hadn't served him the restraining order, which legally gave him the right to do and come as he pleased. And then on top of that, you lied to me and told me that while he was released on house arrest, which was, again, a lie. You know, you're putting me in harm's way. You're putting me in jeopardy. Again, advocate for yourself. I reported all of that. The sad thing is, I still haven't received an official response from anyone addressing my concerns. But and you know that old school saying, let sleeping dog lie? No, you don't. Because to let a sleeping dog lie and to let this type of behavior continue on, you're at risk of having to re-experience it, as I did. Because again, the custody and the divorce came first. There was also the child support issue that came first, where they knowingly allowed him, or claimed to have allowed him, take advantage of government benefits, Medicaid and Medicare, when as a working mother I provided insurance for my children. They did that to benefit him financially. Okay, so there's a lot of things that need to be addressed, and I can't say it enough. See something, say something. You got to speak up. We have to stop hanging our heads and saying, oh well, that's just how it is. It's that way because you allow it to be that way. It's going to continue to be that way because you're allowing it to continue to be that way. The sooner we start speaking up and speaking out against things that we know to be wrong, we know to be true, we know to violate our rights, the sooner we will start seeing effective change. Okay, a lot of people say, well, they're not going to listen to you, we don't have no power. And you're right, if you ain't saying nothing, if you ain't doing nothing, no, you don't have no power. If they don't know something is wrong, how can they fix it? And I guarantee you, little old me has created a wave of change, whether we see it out front or not. It is going on. Someone has, I know for a fact, that's why I mentioned Nina Turner in Unbossed with the government failure to protect the tenants. I did reach out to them. I did, and make them aware of what my situation was. Not saying that my situation spewed that particular communication to the president's office, but knowing that, again, based on what they've told me, I'm not the only one, and we clearly see by her report and the numbers that she shared in her report, it happens more often than not. These people are taking advantage. Has anyone stopped to wonder why there's such a high turnover rate in an apartment that's supposed to be reasonably priced? Why is that? Because they get you in the door, they show you this fabulous apartment, they make you all these promises in regarding to maintenance and maintaining the property and things like that. And on the outside, in select areas, they do that just to get you in. And then when they get you in, and this is the pattern of behavior I found with the current owners of this particular property that I live in. They have changed the name of the property, I want to say 2 times since I've been here, and I know there was a 3rd time before I moved here because it went by a totally different name before that. And within those name changes, they have changed the online reporting system. So you have all of these maintenance requests where they require you to do it online, and then whoops, all of a sudden, well, we just switched over our online servicing provider, so we've lost all of that data and information, which is why no one came out to fix your refrigerator, which is why no one came out to repair the leak, or which is why, and this is the cycle of things. And they continuously do that and then said, oh, my bad, well, I didn't know, we lost all of that data and that information. And we the individuals, we just accept it. We accept it. We just like, okay, it happens. It does happen, but it shouldn't happen. Let me tell you something. These people that are running these properties, they have a duty and responsibility as any homeowner to maintain and take care of their property. That's their duty. That's their responsibility. If for whatever reason they switch out systems, they have a duty and a responsibility to have recorded the information that was previously existing to make it a seamless process. And if they don't, that's a failure on their part. And if they do fail on their part, that's not something you have to eat. That's not a bullet you have to eat. That doesn't fall on you. And see, that's the difference between me and most people when it comes to advocacy. I understand that certain things happen, but this is a repetitive situation. This is happening. When I did a Google search to look at other properties in the area, and I'm seeing the reviews for these properties, all of the reviews for these properties are saying the same thing. So that in and of itself tells you this is a pattern of behavior. So my next question is to the government, to HUD, to the Virginia Housing Association, to all of these watchdog organizations that are supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to be neutral, right? They're supposed to be neutral fact finders. So what they're going to do is, if a claim is made, they're going to supposed to complete an investigation to see if all of what has happened, is there any truth to the claim that was the claim of the complaint. And if they find that they're supposed to take corrective action against these people, whether it's fining them, whether it's revoking their real estate licenses, and things like that. And in most cases, when the matter is egregious, they are not supposed to be able to operate in the real estate community anymore. So you want to know what the loophole is of that? the same property owner maintains ownership of the property and changes its name, and may even change the name of the management company. So if you're not in the know, if you haven't done your due diligence to research or speak to someone who is or who can advocate on your behalf, that does have the knowledge and information to help you, then on the surface of things, you would think that the ownership has changed. So now you're looking at it like, okay, so now things are going to get better. We got somebody new. No, 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 no. A name change does not constitute new ownership. Property management company change does not constitute new ownership. Okay, so while you're replacing the property management company, which is the people that sit behind the desk in the office, do you still have the same maintenance staff? The owners, who are the ones that ultimately set the expectation for how their property is going to be ran through these management companies, if that has not changed, what makes you think the behavior is going to change? It doesn't change. Why doesn't it change? Because nobody is calling them out. Okay, nobody is calling them out. So yeah, I'm asking HUD. Yes, I'm asking the Virginia Housing Association or whoever else they are. I think it's DPOR, Department of Professional something or another. I'm asking these questions to these people who, yes, they are supposed to be one, impartial, but as fact finders, they are supposed to be fully investigating these matters, and they are supposed to be communicating with us, the complaintees. I haven't heard anything from anybody. Yes, I know an investigation takes time, but HUD, if you tell me you have a 100-day turnaround time for your investigation process, and we are well beyond that, and I haven't received any communication from anyone giving me an update, again, that's a failure on your part to operate or to within your duties. You're not fulfilling your duties. You're not meeting the expectation that was set forward when you accepted that position. And for me, that's a problem, because again, on any other job that you work, if you're at McDonald's, if you're at the bank, anywhere that you work, if you're not meeting the expectations of your position and your job title, then you need to be out of there. And it's just that cut and clear for me. It's just that cut and clear for me. Is that cut and clear for me with the judicial system? Is that cut and clear for me with these government agencies? Is that cut and clear for me with anybody that is claiming to be operating as an advocate for the people? Even if you are an impartial party collecting information and you have come aware of or been made aware of truly illegal activity, because discrimination in housing is illegal. They did that for a reason. You're not correcting it if you're still letting those same corporate owners manage and maintain properties. They should lose their right to do that, especially when we talk about the people. Keep in mind, we the people are what makes everything operate and move around. And if we're not right, then they shouldn't be right. How do you still get to collect your check and go sleep at night while you got me out here sleepless, wondering if I'm going to be evicted out of my home, while you got me out here not being able to pay for my own groceries or my utility bills? But you sleep at night every night. You're still getting a check. Something, your money is still coming in. I'm just one person, so that little bit of penny pinching that I might have to do in order to make my ends meet don't make you know, never mind. But keep in mind, just like they said, just like Nina Turner's statistics said, it's not just me. It's not just a one person, you know. And when we're talking about billions of people, and keep in mind, they increased their net profit, I do believe she said, by 50%. She did say 50%. She said they went from like $2.5 billion to $5 billion. But then I still got an unfinished wall in there. I still got water damage in my ceiling that continues to get worse with each and every rain. I still got mold in my window sills because they have not replaced these windows. And for all of those out there purchasing these old properties that are grandfathered in, meaning they don't have to meet certain requirements, we need to do away with that. That's called evolution. As time changes, those policies and procedures need to change as well. So just like they're talking about the median income and what the base or standard rate should be on a monthly basis, and if you're participating in any type of governmental assistance program, they have strict guidelines about how much they're going to pay per person per household. And compared to today's rental market, today's rent far exceeds that. So then you're limiting us, or you're rendering us unable to utilize benefits that are available for us. Because if we can't find a decent apartment, trust and believe, I know there's some apartments that's out there $600, $700, $800, but is there anywhere you want to live? Would you want your children to live there? Would you want your mother to live there? Would you want your father to live there? The answer to those questions is 9 times out of 10, hell no. So why would you expect or want anyone else to live there? Why are you limiting other people to that lifestyle? I don't get with it. They did talk a lot about solutions to the problems. Okay, solutions to the problems. I think there's an opportunity for the government to make a lot of changes when it comes to their governmental assistance program. Okay, I really do. And I brought this up too because what they wound up doing, instead of speaking to the tenants that were taking advantage of the rent relief program, again, that's a COVID-based program that guaranteed people or families housing, and funds for housing in light of the COVID pandemic and a lot of people not being able to work. And yes, you do have people that abuse the system. I get that. I understand that wholeheartedly. But at the same time, you can't punish everybody for that one bad apple that spoiled the bunch. You cannot. So it is then comes a time where we have to sit at the round table and discuss true resolution and provide true solutions to the problem. So the problem is you're bleeding money, right? So how do you get people back to work? How do you get people back to paying their bills and things like that to alleviate that financial burden on the government or whoever else is contributing to those programs? You create a plan. What happened to a succession plan? You know, what happens? Okay, we're paying 100% of your rent right now. We'll give you that for 12 months. And after that 12 months, when the economy turns back around, people should be gravitating back to work. Then we're going to reduce that by 75%, by 60%, by 50%, by 25%. And then ultimately you should be responsible for paying your own rent at this point. That's a solution to the plan, instead of illegally going and obtaining 230 writs of eviction for people in households that should be barred from any legal action taken against them because they are under the protection of the COVID-19 rent relief program. Hello. And again, nobody has yet to explain to me if that stipulation was in there. Again, COVID relief barred corporate housing organizations and landlords from taking legal action against people that were receiving benefits through that program. So if they were barred from doing that, how can you go into a court of law and file for eviction against these people? Why didn't anybody ask these questions? So what you mean to tell me is y'all held off on filing writs of evictions or processing writs of eviction, and on the first day that you were able to, not asking any questions, not seeking to understand the situation of these people, these families, and these households, you just said we're gonna put them out, we're gonna start the process to put them out. That's unacceptable to me. And especially when you're supposed to be under the protection of the program. Those are the type of conversations we need to be speaking on. Advocating for yourself. I was the main one. I'm asking those questions like, wait a minute, where is this coming from? How dare you do this? You know, and the more we start bringing to light situations like these, big and small, because it starts out with something little. It starts out, well, I got a leak in my building and it takes them 6-7 months to come out and repair the leak, or they wait until like there's a water main break before they do anything, but then I have to wait another 6 months for you to come out and paint my wall, which should have been done within 7 days of you the initial repair, because it did take up to a week for the material that they used to dry out enough so that they could paint over it, sand and paint it. That still hasn't been done. And then you're going to tell me, well, did I submit a work order? Why do I have to submit a work order for you to complete something that you already know you needed to complete? It should already be pre-scheduled, and it should be a part of the initial repair request. See, these are the things that are not making any sense. But what do? What can you do? Again, see something, say something. They can't fix what they don't know is wrong. Okay? 2, paper trail. Keep records and documentations of your complaints. 3, follow up. 4, escalate. These government officials and these organizations, they don't want to be bombarded by a gazillion emails, which will turn into, if you leave it up to me, protest. They don't want to have to deal with that. So the more we make them aware of what's going on, then the more likely they are to take action sooner rather than later. And also keep in mind, at the end of the day, whether you believe it or not, we sign those checks, because if we're not the ones out there voting for them, rallying for them. They can't take office. They can't represent us, and that's another thing. You're representing us as constituents, but then I don't see where your representation of my community has benefited my community. You claim you are. You claim you're for the people, but what is being done to protect the people? What is being done to empower the people? What is being done to allow the people to live a life that's befitting of the people? You can't just so because I can't afford to pay $3,000 a month in rent, then I got to live with rats and roaches. Excuse me. Is that what you're telling me? Because I fell on hard times due to medical issues and I couldn't afford to pay my rent. Now I just don't deserve to live anywhere at all, when there are benefits and programs that are there to help bridge that gap, to help us get through those hard times. Let's not talk about social services. Yes, I was a food stamp recipient. However, they issued the food stamps in a wrong name, and then now they're refusing to issue me a verification letter in my legal name. And I'm still baffled by that. My name legally changed 5 years ago, and it's on my social security card, my driver's license, it's on everything. But then you process an application on a name that no longer belongs to me, and now I can't do anything. That I can't participate in any other benefits to help me during my time of stress and strife because of your malfeasance. So you mean to tell me you get an application, you key in my information, you got my driver's license sitting right there, and you still gonna process the information in something other than what you see on my identification? So those are the things we have to speak up about. You know what I'm saying? And while you can claim that's an oversight, that's a small oversight, again, that's a deficiency in their duty. That's a deficiency. If you go to the bank and you submit that loan application, and you submit that loan application in Jane Doe when it's supposed to be John Doe, don't you think you're going to be held accountable for it? Don't you think the bank going to want to know where their money going? Don't you think it's going to be some repercussions for that? And then think of how many other people that they may have done this. And see, my thoughts behind that is, you don't want me to take advantage of the additional benefits that are available for me that I actually need. You're trying to make things as difficult for me as possible. Why? Because I'm advocating for myself. And never mind that, because I'm not going to stop. The point is, these are all the opportunities that these are all the instances that we should be reporting. We need to make sure there's a record of all of these, because at the end of the day, if you're doing a job, you need to do it to the best of your ability to meet the expectation of whatever that job description is, no matter what capacity you are operating in. And failure to do that should result in some form of corrective action. And when I say corrective action, I'm not saying calling for everyone to be fired, although yes, there are some instances where you need to be fired. But why do I have to wait a month for you to correct my name on a government official document? Why do I have to wait a month for that? Why do I even have to go through that? Did you not get the application in my legal name? So why wasn't my information processed with my legal name? That's what I'm not understanding. So we're going to wait to see if I can get a response to that question. But again, when you're operating in any facet or capacity of your life, be sure, y'all. If you see something, you say something. Advocate for yourself. Stop adopting the attitude of, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. God granted you with all the tools that you need. One being that voice that you have. One being those hands that you have. Write, type, text, email. Change will come, but as long as we continue to accept it for the way that it is, and we're not fighting for that change, then there's nothing that you can do about it. I'm not one of those people, nor will I ever be one of those just lay down and take it people. I feel like we cheat ourselves when we don't use our voice. We cheat ourselves when we let others, and I say others generally, condition us, brainwash us, force us into believing we have no power. We are more powerful than we give ourselves credit for being. And together, we're unstoppable. So that's why you advocate for yourself. That's why when you see something, you say something. That's what brings about effective change. A closed mouth never got fed. That's what my grandma always told me. A closed mouth never got fed. Open your mouth, speak up, so that we can correct these wrongs that are being committed against us. In closing, again, I want to shout out AJ Gant. You can learn a little bit more about him at AJGHENT.com. That's AJ Gant. And Miss Nina Turner, Unbossed. Thank you for your storyline in regards to government's failure to protect the renters. I'm super excited. I was super excited to see that. It actually lit a fire in me. It did my soul good to know that my suffering is not in vain. What does that mean to me? It's just like those people are experiencing that, just like those government officials saw fit to compile a letter with other government officials, bipartisan officials, and notifying the president of what's going on. That's how we do it. That's how we bring about effective change that hinders our productiveness in our communities. And when I say communities, underserved communities. And sadly, underserved communities has very little to do with race. It doesn't, because if you go in our underserved communities, you will see that there is a mesh of people there from all races, nationalities, and things like that. But just know that we as a people, we as communities, we as families, and we as individuals, we have to first begin advocating for ourselves before we can expect someone else to do so. Okay. So again, shout out to AJ Gant and Nina Turner of Unbossed. I thank you for your reporting, AJ. I thank you for your music melodies, and yes, it is very therapeutic for me. I played it throughout this entire session, so I appreciate that, and I hope you get my shout out. No, I don't own the rights to his music. I'm just a sister that was in need, and his music ministered to my soul. So that's very appreciative. And as always, you know that Sharon is Coach LLC. Sharon is courageous, optimistic, authentic, humble, and compassionate. Sharon is me. I am coming to you live from Richmond, Virginia. And if you have not already done so, please go to my page, my business page, follow me there. And you can also go to YouTube and follow my YouTube channel at If It Don't Apply, Let It Fly 2818. Subscribe and share. Again, I've been getting the messages in regards to being people supporting me and encouraging, and I do appreciate that. But just know, just like I was able to minister to you in your situation, there are billions of other people that may just need the same. So please subscribe, like, and share. If you're following me on my personal page, I thank you. My following is growing. I appreciate the love and the support. And just to prepare you for what's coming, I will, again, now that I've gotten myself together emotionally and somewhat mentally, I will again start actively promoting a Place of Peace New Life Fellowship. Okay, for those that don't already know, I established a Place of Peace, which is a nonprofit organization in 2021, I do believe. In light of the lack of assistance I found as a domestic violence victim seeking shelter and rehousing benefits. And also, it was born out of the need for a safe place for not just domestic violence victims, but for our families and our communities as a whole, to be able to congregate, to be able to obtain and learn new skills and things like that in the areas of finance, in the areas of education skills, home economics. I think we've gotten away from that. Before I close out, kings and queens, please stop crippling our children by predetermining what they can and cannot do. Just like you have the power to do whatever it is that you put your mind to, a child who is taught, a child who has someone pouring into them, is capable of doing whatever it is that they need and they want to do, including cooking, cleaning, things like that, communication, things like that. So I'm not going to give too much detail. I'm going to wait until the actual unveiling of Place of Peace is to take place before I give any more information about that. But it is a universal place in which it services the entire family, not just the children, not just domestic violence victims, but the entire family as a whole. We want in order to see effective change and turn around the productiveness of our underserved communities, we have to address the root problem. And the foundation of that is the lack thereof, or the brokenness of our families and our households. So place of peace is that universal place where, again, as it says, you go to find peace, and in the process of obtaining your peace, it is also a place where we hope to inspire growth, productivity, okay, and prosperity. That's what it's about. You heard me mention the public assistance succession program or suggestion. That's something I'm big about, because I feel like nowadays the way the system is set up, it is set up to keep us crippled. It is set up to keep us stuck. My own personal experience, they don't allow very many opportunities for you to get ahead in that system if you're in the system on your own. But Place of Peace is in the process of developing a program that will operate in conjunction with recipients of public benefits, public housing, food stamps, TANF, and things like that, so that you're not in a place of being stuck, so that you can elevate and prosper and do great things. That's what it's all about. We all, that, what is the song? We fall down, but we get up. We will all, and I can attest to this. I told you guys, this is my humbling season. And for as painful as it has been necessary, because out of that pain has been born something beautiful. And that's my will to thrive and grow. And I won't stop. I won't stop. I continue to welcome everything, including the hardships, because they make me better for you. They make me better for Place of Peace. They make me better as a coach. They make me better as a mother, as a friend, as a wife, as a daughter, as a sister, as a granddaughter, as a niece. It just overall makes me better. So without those challenges and facing those adversities, you wouldn't get the growth that I pray you guys are able to witness as we continue our journey. It has not been easy, nor will I claim it ever will be. But as long as you use what's deep down inside of you, which is something that we've all been blessed with, and I'm not even going to try to put a name on it. I'm not, because whatever your internal power and strengths are called, for me, it's the Holy Spirit. That's what's inside of me. The Holy Spirit is what grabs a hold of me and helped me to see through and past the pain that I feel. But if it were not for me looking within me, I wouldn't have had the breakthrough that I experienced the other day, which is simply I was able to answer the question for myself. Why would anyone consider committing suicide? Why would anyone consider taking their own lives? And this is what I'm going to end on. It was yesterday evening, have a very in-depth and detailed conversation about a number of different things that I realized that the reason I had contemplated taking my life is simply because I had never addressed or tried to heal from the past pain and trauma of my childhood. So in the present, mind you, adversity, trials, tribulations, that's going to follow you through your life. There's no person, no being existing or have been in existence that can say they have lived a completely trouble-free life. No such thing. Life in itself is adversity, okay? But the thing of it is, if you don't deal with past hurts and pains as you progress through your life and you come up against new traumas, new tribulations, and things like that, it can open a floodgate. And that's what happened to me, because I had not addressed what had happened yesterday. The things that happened today all compiled and hit me at one time. And if you're not properly prepared, if you don't have the support to know how to maneuver or operate in those situations, then you can find yourself at a loss. It can become so overwhelming that you just can't take it anymore. So the beauty of me coming to that realization yesterday was, now that I know why I felt like I wasn't worthy, I know that not to be true. The devil is a lie. Amen. The devil is a lie, because I know who I am and whose I am. But it made me so much lighter. It actually healed so many wounds that I had let fester over the years. So now that I came to that realization, I encourage you guys to focus on your healing. Don't let anyone or anything dictate who you are and who you're going to be. Forgiveness is not for them, it is for you. To forgive someone does not mean you're okay with it. It's just saying that you no longer give it the power to rule your world. Okay? And let me just also put this here. Just because you forgive someone, that don't mean you have to invite them back in. That don't mean you have to invite them back in. That just means you no longer give them the power where you speak their name, hear their name, see their face. It evokes a reaction in you, okay? But that don't mean you got to let them back in. That don't mean you got to deal with them. You got to be a part of to any of their shenanigans and their BS, okay? And be leery of those narcissistic people in your life. You know who they are. Those are the ones that's no matter what they have done wrong, it's never wrong enough to be deserving of your reaction to what they did, okay? So that's a narcissistic person. And also know those are the ones who are, without solicitation, volunteering negative information about somebody, and 90% of the time it's a lie. 90% of the time it's a lie. So be wary of those people that are showing up or reaching out to you, passing along falsehoods that just seem like, and especially too, this is what I didn't understand, and I still question this. People that know you will believe it, and I never understood why. And they'll believe it without even reaching out to you or giving you the common courtesy to ask you about it or to ask you for your side of the situation. And that's normal. They just fall prey to the narcissism. Most people do. And a lot of times they'll say, well, I don't want to get in the middle of it, but the whole time they're believing the lies that's been told, and in light of the fact that the lie has been told, they fail to notify the other party. So just know all of that. It happens. You have a choice. I choose happiness. I choose joy. I choose growth. I choose prosperity, and I hope you shall choose too. And on that note, I'm going to close out again. Sharon is Coach LLC. Sharon is courageous, optimistic, authentic, compassionate, and humble. She is me. I am Sharon, coming to you live from Richmond, Virginia. I hope you had a beautiful and blessed hump day, and I hope the rest of your week is everything that you deserve it to be. Good night.